Hey everyone, after reviewing the first drafts of your remixes and speaking with you yesterday in class, I thought it would be helpful to record a quick video where I go over some things to pay attention to as you continue working on your project. So the biggest thing to think about is the genre, purpose, audience, and rhetorical pill triangle or trifecta square thing. It's not really a triangle because there's four aspects. But I feel like I was talking to students and a lot of things I kept saying was like, okay, well, how does your genre connect to your audience, right? How are the choices you're making going to keep your audience engaged? So you want to think about, for example, how much does your audience know already? If they already have a lot of information about your topic, if they've experienced it or whatnot, how much additional information do you have to give them? How much background do you have to give them? Some audiences want to be confirmed in what they believe. Other audiences don't want to feel spoken down to. So you need to think about what's your purpose and how best can you get that message across to them. Other thing to really think about is rhetorical appeals. So we're always going to be having some type of credibility, logic, and emotion, but you need to decide on how much of each of those factors into your project, okay? Certain topics and certain audiences lend more to emotional appeals, right? Do you want to tug on somebody's heartstrings? Do you want to have them have a gut reaction to something? Or are you trying to get them to respond in a logical manner and appeal to their rational sides? That all goes back to language choices and design choices and everything, right? So all of this is connected and you need to be thinking about that as you're drafting your final draft. Another big thing that I think would be helpful for almost everybody is to analyze other examples of the genre you're composing in, right? If you're doing Instagram stories, watch some viral Instagram stories and see what they do, right? Do they have music in them? Do they include text? Is the speaker on screen in front of other images? What's going on in the background while that speaker's talking, right? All of that goes into a successful Instagram story, for example. The same thing with infographics, right? If we're doing an infographic, people spend about 30 seconds, if that, reading an infographic. So you need to think about how much text you have on there. Most infographics, especially good ones, don't have a ton of text on there. You want to think about how your images, how your graphs, how are your numbers telling the story that your words cannot. And then the other thing that I was talking to a lot of folks about is sources. So you are using data in all of your projects, but the way you cite that data is going to be very different, right? Certain genres emphasize citation and want that credibility very visible. Other genres, you might not see it at all. I'm thinking about infographics, where typically citations are very, very small at the bottom of the infographic. People have to really zoom in to see it, but it's there if they want to fact check you. On social media, on Instagram, for example, you might not have a citation in the actual image of the post, but in the caption or in the comments area of the post, people will cite their sources. So you need to think about how are people going to access your data if they want to access it. So if you scroll down to the third step in the guidelines, it talks about how certain projects might have in-text citations, and others you might actually just attach a references page if you can't incorporate citations, right? I'm thinking about if you're doing a podcast, citations in podcasts are different. You might just say a study from the CDC, blah, 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 and then attach your show notes or your references with the audio recording. So really want you to think critically about how those sources are showing up in your work. So that's all I'll say about feedback on the first draft. Really, really try to keep those things in mind, and then anything we talked about in class as well. We'll have a chance to check in tomorrow, Friday, more if you have more questions.